Happy April Fools!
Happy Sacred Fool Day.
And Profane. This is Em.
And Terilyn.
And we are presenting you the very first of 22 video casts on the tarot.
Archetypes of the tarot and how we could actually embody them and use them in our own lives for learning.
Yeah. So since today is April Fool's Day, and since the deck starts with the Fool at number 0, we're starting today. Here we go. Yoink. So you can see here the Fool. You want to talk about it?
Yeah, so this is a card from the Barbara Walker deck, and you can see this joyful little character here dressed like a gesture is about to skip right off a cliff. So what it represents for me is the Fool is the archetype of being really yoked to the present moment and feeling the joy and the play, the divine play of the present moment. I think it's the true mark of the yogi, the Fool, because the Fool doesn't stay attached to any one thing. He's willing to pick up his little hobo sack, go right off around the next corner.
Yeah, we have one of those.
Yeah. And, you know, I read this poem just today in class that's really short, and it's by Helsi Flores. It's called The Fool, and it just simply says, "A fool to dread, you never knew. Paradise was just ahead of the line you drew." So I love that a lot because it speaks to that being willing and not so attached to one way of being or one situation that you're not able to just walk right past that line that you thought you drew in order to find the joy in the present moment, in order to find the play of the present moment, in order to find that divinity of the present moment that's always shifting and changing. Even if you walk off a cliff, right down that cliff might be absolute paradise.
The next life.
The next life. So if you feel like walking off a cliff.
We're not suggesting that. That would be foolish.
Very foolish.
And then there's this other from the Osho. Speaking of jumping off the cliff. And this is depicted with, again, this sort of blissful ignorance is one way that one can interpret these cards, and something that is so important to discern is as you look at these archetypes, something that I've been trying on for myself is how you perceive the cards. Totally up to you. And so on one end, the Fool can be considered foolish in the negative sense of not knowing and being ignorant to the reality of boundary. And that could be your way of looking at this card. And then on the other side, it could be this innocence. So ignorance to innocence and that whole spectrum. And the Fool can also get this rep for not taking responsibility. However, perhaps the Fool is the most responsible by being so present in this very moment that there is this absolute infinite potential, just like in the number 0.
And the openness of being able to, you know, leap off the proverbial cliff, not real cliffs, but the willingness to leap off the cliff because you just don't know what's on the other side. And so fear can hold us back from so many things. And really, fear is usually us either past tripping, something happened in the past that we don't want to repeat, that same pattern, or we're future tripping, oh, I'm fearful of what could lie ahead. When really the only moment we have is right now, and that's what the Fool represents, is being completely yoked to this moment. And, you know, the sacred jackass.
Yeah.
You know, not being afraid to speak your truth because you're afraid of what somebody else might think of you, or not waiting until you feel so well spoken to make a video and put it on YouTube, or
that'd be foolish.
That'd be so foolish, yeah.
We have no way of editing this. So
Yeah.
So yeah, great. Are we good for this one? Yeah. That's it for now. Speaking of editing.
I would say to everyone, like, how could you tune into your divine fool, to that ability to not worry so much about what other people thought? If you thought that there were no consequences for what you really truly desire, what would you do to get there? Like, how would you use that divine fool who doesn't worry about consequence, doesn't worry about attachment to outcome? How can you use that in order to propel you forward in your dreams?
Perfect. That's a great question. And please respond.
Okay, thank you.
Have fun fooling.